2 races, 6 weeks, for European records. Do you really think that's a coincidence? Why are several European athletes suddenly running faster than ever before? What are they doing differently? More intervals? More mileage? Or less intensity, but distributed better? And here comes the uncomfortable question. If they're improving this fast, is it because they've discovered something the rest of us still aren't applying? Because when one athlete breaks a record, it can be talent. When several do it almost at the same time, that's a system. And that system is changing the 10K in Europe. Today you're going to understand what's really happening, and why this could transform the way you train too. When one athlete runs a historic time, it can be a perfect day. When several do it in consecutive weeks, that's not luck. That's method. For years, Europe had good runners. Very good ones. But it didn't dominate the road 10K. There was talent. There was discipline. There was tradition. What was missing was a shared system that maximized every detail. That's what changed. Now it's not about training harder. It's about training with precision. Every session has a clear purpose. Every pace is measured. Every training block builds something specific. They're not training randomly by feel. They're not improvising day to day. They're following structure. And here's what's most interesting. It's not one isolated country. It's not one school. Sweden, France, the United Kingdom. Different places, same pattern. More control, more science, less ego. The old European model had a flaw. Huge talent, but poorly distributed intensity. Very hard days stacked together. Then overly slow recovery. Unpredictable peaks. Constant ups and downs. Now they're chasing stability. Solid weeks. Consistent months. Progressive years. The new European approach doesn't want spectacular training. It wants sustainable training. And that changes everything. Because when you reduce mistakes, you unlock real potential. That's exactly what we're seeing on the roads. This shift didn't appear from nowhere. Europe didn't invent something from scratch. It observed. It borrowed what worked. And refined it. For years, they looked toward Africa for answers. Now they're also looking north. The model influencing many European athletes has one common principle: absolute control of effort. It's not about always running fast. It's about knowing exactly how hard you're working. These athletes constantly monitor effort. They know when they're at the limit and when they're still building. Here's the key word: threshold. A large part of their training revolves around that point where the body is working hard, but sustainably. Not comfortable, not destructive. Exactly where improvement happens without breaking. Instead of one brutal weekly session, many accumulate 2 controlled quality sessions in the same day. Strong in the morning, strong in the afternoon, but always measured. That allows something powerful: accumulating many minutes of quality without extreme exhaustion. They're not obsessed with spectacular sessions. They're obsessed with repeating them week after week. No injuries, no artificial peaks, no burnout. It's a hybrid model. High volume, yes, but surgical intensity. Plenty of easy mileage, truly easy. And when it's time to push, they push at the exact point. No going all out just to prove toughness. They're not training to impress social media. They're training to reach kilometer 8 in a race with enough fuel to accelerate. Less heroics, more accumulated intelligence. And when you combine serious volume with precise intensity, running fast stops being a surprise. Here's where many get it wrong. They think running a blazing 10K requires savage sessions every week. Short intervals, extreme paces, collapsing on the ground. That's not what's driving the difference. Europeans are accumulating huge blocks of controlled, strong running. Long efforts, steady pressure, 30, 40, even 50 total minutes of quality in a session. Not flashy, not dramatic, but devastatingly effective. Because that builds the ability to sustain high pace without collapsing. That's what lets you reach kilometer 7 without negotiating with yourself. Many recreational runners do the opposite. Too fast in intervals, too slow in easy runs, and not enough time spent in that middle zone where real improvement happens. Europeans are mastering that zone. They're not obsessed with maxing out VO2 every week. They're expanding the pace they can hold without breaking. And when you expand that ceiling, race pace stops feeling aggressive. That's why we're seeing stronger finishes, faster final kilometers. They're not surviving. They're controlling. And that changes the race script completely. There's another detail few mention. They're not just running harder. They're running more efficiently. That starts far from the track. Consistent strength work. Not only in the off-season, all year. Strong feet. Stable ankles. Active glutes. Solid core. It sounds basic, but improve efficiency by 1% per kilometer. And over 10K that becomes real seconds. At this level, seconds mean history. Many train to run faster. They train to waste less energy per stride. Less unnecessary movement. Less wasted impact. More forward propulsion. That allows something brutal. Holding form when fatigue hits. Because the real problem in a 10K isn't kilometer 1. It's kilometer 8. If your technique doesn't collapse under fatigue, you have a massive advantage. That's the invisible difference. Not magic. Not new genetics. Structure. Combine resistance to high pace with refined economy, and records fall. Another overlooked factor. They're not just training better. They're racing smarter. Big performances aren't happening randomly. They're choosing fast courses, straight routes, few turns, cold, stable weather. They're peaking for a specific date. They don't race every weekend. They don't burn energy for exposure. They build for months. To explode at the right place. That's strategic planning. Arrive with a strong base, controlled pace, refined economy, ideal conditions, and the margin for error shrinks to almost zero. And when you reduce errors, times drop. Previously, many Europeans arrived fit, but without surgical strategy. Now every detail is measured. Opening pace. Which pack to run with. Exactly when to accelerate. They don't improvise the final kilometer. They've trained it. And it shows when the clock dips into times that once seemed untouchable. Not long ago, Europeans running at this level on the roads sounded unrealistic. African dominance was absolute and still massive. But something is shifting. Europe now has more professionalization, more data, more training control, more road specialization. They don't depend only on raw talent. They depend on system. And when the system is strong, performance becomes predictable. Does that mean Europe dominates? No. Altitude culture, early development, and African depth still matter. But the gap is no longer enormous. Now we see Europeans capable of holding paces that seemed impossible 10 years ago. And when the gap narrows, competition becomes dangerous. Because this new generation isn't racing to participate. They're racing to break limits. And when mentality shifts, the next record stops being a surprise. Now comes the important part. This means nothing if you stay a spectator. What can you copy? First, build real aerobic base. Easy runs that are truly easy. No ego. No turning every outing into a competition. Second, spend more time at strong but sustainable pace. Not just short, all-out intervals. Introduce longer blocks. Accumulate quality minutes. Build resistance to race pace. Third, less drama in training. If every session leaves you destroyed, you're not building continuity. Continuity creates improvement. Fourth, structural strength year-round. Strong feet. Stable ankles. Solid hips. Stable core. You don't need extreme routines. You need consistency. Finally, plan your races. Don't compete impulsively. Choose a date. Build toward it. Arrive intentionally. That's what the best are doing. You don't need to run 26 minutes to apply the system. You need discipline. What happened in those races wasn't isolated. It was a signal. Europe is moving away from suffering-based training toward precision-based training. Less improvisation, more structure, less heroics, more intelligence. And when that shift consolidates, limits begin to move. Maybe the next European record won't take years. Maybe it arrives sooner than we expect. When several athletes rise together, it's not coincidence. It's evolution. So here's the real question. Are we watching the beginning of the best European 10K generation ever? And if the system keeps refining, where will the limit be in 2 years? That's what makes this moment fascinating. We're not looking at the past. We're watching the future of the 10K form in real time. If you've made it this far, you understand. This isn't just about talent. It's about system. Precision. Intentional training. Now I want your opinion. Is Europe living its best 10K moment ever? Or is there still another leap to take? Write it in the comments. I'll read you. And if this analysis changed how you see training, subscribe. Because here, we don't just talk about running. We talk about understanding why the best are improving. And now I'll leave you with the video where I break down in detail the method influencing many of these athletes. If you want to keep evolving, that's your next step.